everyone, good morning. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays. This will be a very personal, almost personal type of conversation today. So guys, Wellness Wednesday is about issues that pertain to women mostly, and I know maybe men could relate to some extent, but it's going to be mostly for women, whether old or young. It's something that we all need to think about, and I know we're very conscious of our bodies and so on, but it only gets better. So, you know, over the years I never really had embraced aging that well. Although some people may say, oh, you look young for your age, being in my 50s. I never really embraced the aging process. But somehow something clicked when I turned 50. I just decided, you know what, I'm 50, and I accepted it. That was 3 years ago. So one of the things I was happy about is the fact that I never had problems with like cramps and stuff, you know, like that time of the month. I never had those problems, and I never really had much of a bloatedness issue when I was younger. I never had pimples either when I was younger. As a teen, I never broke out as some teens, you know, they get acne and stuff. I never had that. But it seems like not all women are created equal, first of all. So I noticed that people who never went through certain things when they were younger, sometimes it happens when you're older. So for those young women out there who, you know, may struggle with acne and all that as a younger person, maybe when you get older you won't have to worry about that. Because guess what? When I turned 50 plus, I started to have issues with acne, and I never had that problem when I was younger. So I had to be so careful what I eat and what I put in my body, you know, and how I care for my skin and all that, right? And that's the reason why I go on this regimen where I make sure that I have fruits, vegetables, all that every day. And I try to be very careful about the cholesterol levels, in terms of the foods, the kind of foods that will increase my cholesterol levels. So that would also affect like pimples coming on my face and stuff, like affect my skin, right? And it doesn't only come on my face, it will come on my chest sometimes or my back. So I have to be very mindful of what I put in my system. Another thing that I notice is that as I age, and especially since my menstrual monthly cycle has gone all over the place, it has went from like, there were times when it went from like once a month, and I was a very regular person, right? I always had a period, I never missed one, and I always recorded everything down, so I know exactly what's going on. And I've been doing that since I was a teenager. All my journals, all my calendars, all my notebooks had all my notes about every cycle every month. And then now that I have my phone that I use, I record that on my calendar on my phone, so I can go back in time to show all the times that I've had my periods. And what I notice is that not only was I regular when I turned in my 50s, when I, you know, start aging more or get older, I noticed that it's like it came with a vengeance. I was getting like sometimes almost 3 events in a month, and I'm like, what is this? What is going on here? Anyway, so after that happened, I noticed that I started to not have a few, like I missed a few, and at that point because when I had remarried, I was saying to myself, oh my gosh, maybe I'm pregnant, all that kind of stuff. But obviously it didn't happen. So, and I went from like 3 in 1 month to like nothing for 90 days. And I know some people, especially those who have gone through, you know, problems with cramps and stuff like that, they might say, well, you know, that's better and so on. But then guess what? When you don't have a period and you're not menstruating and whatnot, you still have some symptoms. You're still getting the pimples, you're still getting the bloatedness, and now as I age, I'm getting more bloatedness, right? So it's almost like you think that you have arrived and that as you age that certain things are not going to be there anymore, but it doesn't work that way. I was talking to a colleague yesterday, and she said, you know, somebody had told her years ago, as you age and you get into your 50s, as you breathe, as you take in air, you get bloated. So that was a way of saying you can't get away from it. And I was wondering why, when I look online, I see a lot of women my age are talking about the changes in their bodies and how their stomach or their belly start getting bigger, and how they're doing all these exercises to try to reduce or to change or to get back the body that they had before. And especially, you know, if you have a small frame and then your belly get bigger, you look like you're expecting. If you were, you know, full-bodied and then you know, your belly got bigger, it won't look so bad. And I'm being honest. But when you're small, everything else is small, and all of a sudden you have this huge protrusion coming out, then it looks like something is wrong, and you're constantly aware of it, conscious, and you start wearing clothes that hide your belly. And that's my problem, and I'm being honest. And so, you know, aging, and even though I just started to embrace it, it comes with its challenges. And you know, the only thing I can think of is maybe some foods could be causing that problem. And one of the things I've been doing lately too, I've been reducing my intake, because you know, as you age, you really don't need all that food. You don't really need all that energy unless you're really working out really hard, unless you're doing some really strenuous workouts and stuff like that. So maybe you may need that, right? But if you're just sitting at your desk all day and you're not moving around a lot, quite frankly, you really don't need all that food, because food is really for energy, not for just for the sake of eating. And as you get older, your metabolism slows down. So really, you're not burning the food that you're intaking. As Mark always say, calories in, calories out, right? And it depends on what you're doing in terms of burning the calories that would cause you not to store it. So if you're intaking a certain amount of calories, then you need to be doing something to be using those calories that you're intaking. So these are the woes of aging, especially for women. And you know, it is like a shocker for a lot of us who have never been in this situation before. And even, you know, when I consider my mom, who I mentioned in another video, she is in a situation where she can't really speak, she can't really move, she can't really communicate with me. So I have all these questions that I, you know, want to know about how she dealt with certain things. I know that when she was at my age, I know she was struggling with heat flashes, hot flashes and stuff. I noticed it's weird. For me, I've had it, and primarily when I'm sleeping, but I don't know, I have to start thinking about like doing a pattern, like a schedule or something, you know, to kind of monitor my heat flashes. It happens when I'm sleeping a lot, But I know I'm gonna sound weird. I like sweating when I'm sleeping. But sometimes, I'm telling you, you know what heat flash feels like? It's almost like standing in the sun, hot sun, maybe like 30 degrees, and your back is exposed and you're not moving and you're just standing there. That's what heat flash feels like in the hot sun. And but it doesn't feel like that all the time. You know, it depends on the weather. And now that it's winter in Canada, I don't really feel it a lot. Sometimes I actually feel cold. So, but I also feel like if you just ignore it, then it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And I notice a lot of women, they're always fanning, oh my gosh, I'm hot, I'm hot. But sometimes I just ignore it. Like if I feel it coming on, I just ignore it. And I find that if I engage in activities, doing things, not really paying attention to what's going on, then I don't really notice my body, you know, going through those changes. And I feel it's mind over matter too. I think if you're mentally at that place where you are engaged and you're not really focusing on what's happening internally or on your, you know, on yourself, then I feel like it helps to not really be bothered about what's happening to your body. So that's my recommendation on that. And I find that helped me. And I even was having conversations with some other older woman that used to work at my workplace. And I asked her, I said, do you experience like, you know, that menopausal, you know, catastrophe? Like, what do you do? Like, you know, how did you maneuver that? And she said she doesn't even notice it. And one of the things I noticed, she has a very calm demeanor and she doesn't let things bother her. She goes, oh, it's whatever. She just live. And I'm thinking, wow, that's probably a good strategy. So that's kind of what I do. I just keep busy, just do whatever I'm doing, and I don't notice what's going on. So even if it might come on, I only notice it when maybe I'm sweating. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm having one of those episodes. So, you know, like I said, my mom, I noticed that she used to fan a lot and all that, and I don't really have her now to have that conversation with her. But I have to, you know, find ways to adjust myself and kind of like, you know, do some introspection, do some observation, and kind of watch and see what works for me and what doesn't. So that's kind of what I had to say. And another thing, exercise is definitely really, really good, because one of the things I notice is that if I keep myself busy and I do a lot of strenuous stuff throughout the day, I will be able to sleep better. That's another problem that happens, you know, when you get older. Sleeping is like it gets away from you. And I'm thinking, one of the things I love to do, guys, I love to sleep. I love to make sure that I get my rest, because I feel like I'm not, you know, focused, or I'm not able to do, you know, what I have to do throughout the day properly when I don't get proper rest. So that's one of the things I ensure that I do, is get proper rest. So sometimes it doesn't happen, right? It depends on what's happening for the day. And even food, some foods can cause you not to be able to sleep properly as well. So that's one of the things I noticed. So, you know, it is really, it's almost like another job to be monitoring yourself, monitoring what you eat, monitoring what you're doing, making sure you're doing everything you can to keep yourself healthy and to sustain your mental, you know, composure as you age. Because now you're not just thinking about the physical, you're thinking about the mental too. And one more thing, I was talking with my cousin last night, and she was sharing this thing with me about what happened to her. Now, she's about 74 or 70, she said, I think. She's retired. But she has been encountering this issue for 20 years, at least, she said. So what happened is she had like really bad periods before she even went through menopause. She had really, really bad periods. And she never had any kids, you know, she never been married. I'm not even sure she ever had a boyfriend. Because she's, you know, one of those old-fashioned person. And when I say old-fashioned, I don't mean that she looks old-fashioned or acts old-fashioned. I mean, you know, back in the days when some people, you know, they grew up in the church and stuff, they would never be caught with any boyfriend or anything of that nature. And if nobody approaches them, they just keep themselves pure until whatever happens. So she's one of those persons. So she never had a boyfriend really. Anyway, so she had to encounter problems with bad periods. And she was explaining to me that it was so bad she had to have an operation. And it would appear also that, you know, especially as you age and if you don't have kids when you're younger, unfortunately, you have to deal with bad periods sometimes, and fibroids and stuff. That happened to my sister too, because she didn't have her child until later on. I never really had that problem, and I don't know if it's because I started having kids earlier. I had my first child when I was, what, 23? Because I was married about when I was 22. Anyways, so the point is, because she had this bad issue, she had to have an operation. So after they took out the fibroids, did all that they needed to do, she had been battling with problems with holding her urine. So now what happened to her is she'll be like on the road, just regular, doing her stuff, and all of a sudden she pees herself. So she was giving me the story about how bad it is, that she had to be wearing like 2 diapers plus pads. And I'm thinking, wow. And you know, if you see this lady, you would never believe that she's going through that. She's petite. When she dresses, she looks amazing. And I don't mean because she's petite she looks amazing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's how her structure is. So if she's wearing all this stuff underneath, you would never believe that's what she's encountering. But the problem is, because of the issue with not being able to hold her urine, she's embarrassed a lot of times, because she'll be on the train and she's just either standing or sitting and everything just comes down. She'll be in the bank and it happens. I remember she was explaining that one time she was on the train, and I don't know what happened, but maybe whatever she was going through, maybe her pad and or pull-ups or whatever she was wearing got so heavy. It was so heavy that stuff was falling down. I mean, I'm saying to myself, what? And she goes, yeah, she was so embarrassed, and she saw this young man looking at her, and she just pulled it back up. And I'm like, wow. And she got off the train at the first stop and then went to take care of it. I'm like, oh my goodness. Then she was saying, she doesn't even want to go to visit anybody's house, because she'll be sitting on their couch, and then next thing you know, there's an accident. But the problem that I wanted to share with her situation is that because she had the fibroids, she had an operation and they made a mistake. Somehow they did something when they were dealing with the fibroids, getting rid of them. They made a mistake and they cut part of her bladder inside. So what ended up happening is she lost her ability to hold her urine. And I'm telling you, there are so many things that I consider when I hear these stories, because something similar happened to my mom, right? My mom went to the doctor, and they said, well, she had these small fibroids, and she didn't really have big ones, right? Because my mom also had kids young. You know, she started when she was about 20. And what ended up happening is she ended up with some issues with her. It's like she had a prolapse, so it's like her womb was hanging out, and it appears that the doctor made some mistake. They didn't do something properly. And even my older sister, when she was trying to figure out what happened, and she was doing a research to find out what happened, she said they found out that the paperwork for the medical issues, you know, whatever, the procedure and stuff, the paperwork was missing. So what that tells me is that doctors, sometimes they don't know what they're doing. And so this is 2 counts, and I've heard other counts where they mess you up and then you end up worse, in a worse situation than you were before. I know that prolapse can happen as you get older, and especially if you have a lot of children, but that was so close to the time after she had, you know, dealt with the fibroids issue. So, you know, these are some things that we need as women to be aware of. You know, as we age, there's so many things that happen, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're young, whether you're old. If I knew some of these things, I would be more prepared and more mentally prepared. And that's why now I'm embracing the aging process, but I'm also making sure that I listen and I pay attention to what other women are saying to me, so that I can prepare myself. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I know in some instances it might seem overwhelming, but at the end of the day, just make sure that you understand what it entails in aging. Okay, as a woman, we go through a lot. We you know, have children, we have periods, we have all these stuff, and when you get older, you still have issues. But just embrace the aging process, and don't forget that as you get older, if you breathe, you might get bloated. So meaning you don't even have to do anything wrong and you can get bloated, and then your body start changing and all these different things start happening. But at the end of the day, just make sure that you take care of yourself, take care of each other, and do the best you can, even if, you know, you may not like how things look and whatnot. But just be aware of what happens or what tends to happen as you get older. And that's what we have to share today. I know this is not a mission marks topic, but as I always say, let's keep it real. And the reason is, let's keep it real, sharing our experiences, our thoughts, our perspectives. And if it helps at least one person, then we have accomplished our goal. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.